Hey guys, what's going on? It's Corey here from Fields Forge, and this is part two of this knife build here that I'm doing for one of my buddies. This is where we left off in the last video. Um, we got the shape pretty roughed out. I had mentioned at the end of the last video that I needed to fix this little um, index finger area right here. It's just too squared. It needs to be more of a radius. To match the rest of the knife. But other than that, we're pretty close. The first thing I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to square up the work piece table on my belt sander. It's a little crooked. I noticed yesterday after checking out my knife that the hard lines that I had carved in there, they're just a little bit at an angle. It's not bad, and it's definitely something that I can just square that up and fix it real quick. But yeah, that's going to be the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and square up that table and that plating and make sure everything's nice and square, so when I do grinds or plunge lines or anything like that, everything's nice and even and square and looks real nice. Alright guys, I forgot one thing. Before we move on to shaping this out a little bit better, I'm going to go ahead and scribe in these lines for the bevel. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm gonna take a little bit of Windex and just get rid of this Sharpie that's on here, which the Sharpie doesn't stick great to this steel anyway, just because it's it's not very rough. It's not polished, but it's not super rough. So it doesn't really have much to stick to on this knife. So we're just going to go ahead and wipe it on off best we can. Make sure it's dry. And then we're going to go and just color it back over. And I'm actually going to color the edge too. Make sure it's good and dry before we lay it over on our paper. Alright, so basically what we're going to do here, set the knife to the side for a second. We're going to try to go as closely to what we have here as possible. So this bevel that I drew out, I'm just going to go ahead and round about the size of it. And we're just gonna, actually that looks a lot different. Hang on. Must have moved it before I screwed it down. That wasn't right. I'm glad I caught that. Alright, and as you can see, just give us those lines for the bevels, and for this edge, to find the center of the edge, what I have learned is a good way to find the center is to get a drill bit that is the same thickness as your blade. So I need a 1/8 inch drill bit. And basically, what I've learned from quite a few people on YouTube and other sources is if you do it right, you use that drill bit to scribe what is supposed to be the center line, but I guess if you're using it on wood that is not square, then I guess it doesn't work. So we're going to try that again over here on the little table for my belt sander here. Alright, I don't know if you can see that very well there on the video or not, but it basically just draws the center line all the way down that blade. But yeah, we're going to go ahead, since we got all those lines scribed out and everything, we're going to go ahead and start on this. I'm going to use a Dremel to try to fix that, and then after that we'll start on the bevels and everything, and we might get far enough to quench it today, I'm not sure, but I'm going to go ahead and set up the camera and start using a Dremel to try to bore that out into more of a radius. Alright guys, we're going to go ahead and start filing in these bevels. I'm just going to start with a double cut file here. Real nice heavy double cut, and rough those in real good. Alright guys, next what we're going to be doing is we're going to be laying out these holes. Basically, I got to figure out the way that I did it on the print to get them even and centered. I guess the best way to do it is just figure out how wide we are. Yeah, that actually looks really good. That's really, really close. And since the back side of this blade is square, we're just going to do the same measurement on the other side. Just going to do it before we Now, I got that center line scribed. So I'm basically just gonna guess on where I want these. Oh, that was about right there. All right, and back here we're going to drill a hole, and for like a lanyard hole or something. We're going to drill it 5/16. I was going to do a 1/4 inch, but my 1/4 inch bit the dust quite literally. So let me grab a drill. I'm gonna drill a couple pilot holes, and then we'll go straight into drilling these out to the correct size. These seem to be very good quality little pins. The pattern in them was very crisp, very clean, and I'm very happy with how they look. And I can't wait to get them in this knife with the scales and everything on it. And I think the next thing that we have to do here is to go ahead and quench this and harden that blade and get it ready to go ahead and sharpen and put final finish on and everything. I think it's turned out really well. The blade is nice and straight, nice and even, and there's not a whole lot left as far as doing the bevels and doing the final finishes of everything. So I'm going to go ahead and prep it to do the quench, and once I get it prepped to do the quench, I'm going to go heat up the forge, and we're going to go ahead and do that. Alright guys, as you can probably hear, I got the forge heating up right now. We're going to go ahead and get this knife up to temperature and go ahead and go for a quench, try to harden it. So then hopefully next video we'll be ready for handle scales and final polish and sharpening of the knife. That one may take a couple days because the scales and my sharpening kit and everything that I've got on the way to be able to do all this. It's going to take a couple days to get here, so it might be a few days before the next video comes out. But at least I'll have a couple videos for you guys until then. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get that forge up to temperature and get this blade up to a non-magnetic temperature, which is probably around 1500 degrees. And then we're going to go ahead and quench it in our oil. Alright guys, so after the quench, we have a bit of an issue. Here's the knife. I'm very pleased with how this knife turned out before I quenched it. There's a lot of things that took me some time to figure out with this knife, but I'm glad that I was able to get it figured out. Even though this knife broke, I had a lot of experience that will deem well in the future, on future projects, on future knives. Now, to explain what happened. So, there must have been some stresses inside of this that hadn't been relieved, and I think I got the handle too hard. Now, I quenched this in a brine solution. It's water, salt, jet dry, and Dawn dish liquid. That specific quenching method is specifically for like railroad spikes, because they have such a low carbon content. You have to make sure that you're hardening it to the best of its capabilities, so you have to do it very, very quickly. So that brine solution was meant specifically for that. I tried, as you'll see in this video, I tried to quench it in vegetable oil, but it didn't get hot enough. So I quickly threw it back in the forge, got it back up temperature, dipped it in the brine solution, and obviously it hardened. If it hadn't have hardened, then it wouldn't have broke. What happened is when I pulled it out of the quench and I looked down the edge of the knife, I noticed that there was a bend in it. And that told me that I needed to quickly get it to a vise and clamp down on it, because after you quench, you have a very, very short amount of time, something like 3 to 5 seconds, something like that. Where the grain structure of the metal hasn't fully set and hardened. So you do have a very, very short amount of time to try to bend that back into shape. So I brought it in here to the vise. I ran in here, clamped it down, realized that the handle was a little crooked, gave it a little tap with the tongs, and I noticed that it moved very easily after I hit it the first time. And I didn't hit it very hard, so maybe there was a crack, maybe there was a stress. When you cool metal that quickly, you have a good chance of cracking. But I think the biggest issue that I had was that I got the handle too hot, and I'm pretty sure where it cracked, I quenched down to there somewhere. Now, this series isn't over. I'm still making Josh's knife. I just have to restart. I have the steel. I have everything else I need. And I still have a few days before the scales and some of the other things come in the mail for me to even be able to finish the knife. So I don't think my timeline's going to be skewed very much, if any at all. But tomorrow I'm going to have to come out here, reshape a blade, and restart that whole process. And that's not fun. Believe me, that's not fun. But I think what I'm going to do this time, I think tomorrow or the next day, one of the two, what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace this knife out onto this stock that I have, this extra stock that I have over here. And I think that I'm going to take it over to my father's shop and use his bandsaw to cut it, just to save a little bit of time. That took a whole lot of time trying to just cut material off. Now, I could try to stick it in the forge and forge some of it down, but I think at this point, just trying to get back close to where I was, I think my best bet is to probably just take it over to my father's and cut it out with a bandsaw, and then come back and use the belt grinder and the Dremel to get it back somewhere close to where it was. Now, originally when I was making this knife, I made some mistakes, so I had to move stuff around. I had to shorten the blade a little bit because of a miscut, and I had to move some things around because of that miscut. I had to work around some mistakes. So hopefully this time I don't have to do that, and I can do it exactly to the way I cut it out. And what I may end up doing is I may end up cutting this out and tracing it on cardboard, or maybe even just gluing it to my my stock and shaping it that way. We'll see. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that yet, but that might be the quickest way, is to go ahead and cut out my drawing and glue it to my piece, take it over there, cut it with the bandsaw, do what I can while I'm over there, and then come back and shape it and drill the holes and all that good stuff. So that I might do that just because it'll save me some time, but I will be making videos on this next one that I'm trying from start to finish, just the way that I was doing with this one. But there might just be more content in one video. I might get closer to this point in one video rather than two, just because I'll be over there using a bandsaw and using some other tools that are going to help me speed up the process, some stuff that I don't have here at my shop. But I thank you guys for watching. This video is the second in this series of making Josh's knife. And like I said, there will be more, hopefully coming very, very soon. So keep an eye out for those. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, and go follow my Instagram and my Facebook and my Twitch in case you want to catch those live streams. But make sure you're following the Instagram and the Facebook if you want to get updates on when new videos are coming out, new projects, future projects, drawings that I'm coming out with, whatever. Just basically anything to come in the future, I will be posting on those social medias. I'll drop everything in the link down below. Again, I appreciate you guys watching, and hopefully in the next video we'll start a knife that won't break. And I'll see you guys in the next one.